Jolly New Year's Eve to all my fellow Sherlock fans. I wanted to cheer you all up with a very special episode of What the Fake with J Baillier. Joining me this evening as we approach the hopefully much better year 2021 is Elldotsee. I've chosen her as my co-host this evening because she's my very dear friend and an excellent fic author and very clever, but most of all she's very cute, which is of course a very important feature in a co-host for an audio podcast. Here she is.
I am fully prepared to do this. Fully perky and definitely.
You managed to turn your laptop on and everything.
Managed to turn it on and get to the right spot. Yes, I'm doing good so far.
So why do you think we're doing this?
Because you told me to. Isn't that how this friendship works? You tell me to do things and I do them.
How dare.
Always willingly, with a smile on my face and no question.
You tell me, like, every time we have a conversation, you see fit to remind me that I am not the boss of you.
It's true. Yesterday you called yourself my sidekick, which I won't soon forget.
Yeah,
I'll have you know.
That was your Christmas present, since your actual presents never arrived, at least not before Christmas.
It's lost somewhere over the Atlantic, I think.
And mine is still going, like, yo-yoing back and forth between two Scandinavian countries, neither of which are the one that I live in.
No, one of them is.
Yeah.
It's been to your country twice. It's been there twice.
I'm on holiday. I don't have to remember where I live.
Yeah, one of them. It's been to a fairly major city near you twice. That's as close as it's gotten. It's just taunting you. Someday.
Like, sometime in 2021, I will get my Christmas presents. Our next section is a very small round table, since it's just two people. Is that even a round table? That could be a square table.
Just a line back and forth, like a ping pong game.
Yeah, like two people can still be a line. Okay, so a very small table of undefined shape regarding Sherlock Christmas fic tropes. What are they? Do we like them? Which ones would we like to see more of? That can be for Sherlock or that can be for John, but loneliness is the big thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Loneliness at holiday time is always extra amplified too, I think. Sherlock tends to internalize it and get very moody and also very sort of lashes out verbally occasionally. I've seen that one. Just in sort of his sassy way, not in a very, or like his extra rude way.
And John gets drunk. A lot of Christmas.
And depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen quite a few fics where that sort of happened post series 4, where John is kind of coping with Mary's death and being a single parent, but the Christmas which is of course very much a family holiday, that sort of brings a lot to the surface, and he also starts to sort of re-examine his family unit and how Sherlock is a part of it or isn't yet.
The other side is that John overcompensates by being like Mr. Holiday Cheer
and Sherlock hating all of the like tinsel and decorations and fuss,
but really just kind of being the Scrooge or the Grinch, because that inside pain makes him be outwardly very cantankerous.
That's what we need in a good Christmas story, the pain.
It's not Christmas, that's pain.
No.
I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna embroider that on something.
It ain't Christmas unless it hurts.
You're doing it wrong. But yeah, John being like the happiest Christmas elf, with or without Rosie. I've seen it both ways.
John teaming up with Mrs. Hudson to Sherlock's horror as a happy, cheery Christmas person. Yep.
Baking cookies and putting up fairy lights on every available surface. And Yeah.
I mean, we know that John does
Cheery.
that, or possibly it was Mrs. Hudson. I mean, they had fairy lights at 221B in
it was
Belgravia.
beautifully decorated during the horrible Christmas.
And there was even a horrible Christmas party, so well done, John.
Well done. Did he plan that? I don't know.
I don't think Sherlock invited those people.
No, I was thinking Hudson.
Yep.
Not John or Sherlock. I was thinking Mrs. Hudson probably just invited everyone over to get them drunk on her punch.
Yeah, Molly looked like she was definitely on the prowl.
Oh, which, on the prowl at 221B? Come on. I mean, we know who she was going after, but...
She hadn't given up yet. Speaking of parties, I think I've seen quite a few fics where there is a Christmas sort of office party at the yard, and then there's
I think I've read every
mistletoe or dancing or whatever.
Truth or dare. There's a lot with truth or dare or dancing. Oh, and all of them. Give me more. Write more.
And because
the yard.
Of course one thing then leads into John Locke.
Yeah, that's really all. Anytime that the yard is involved with the inevitable John Locke, and anytime there's betting involved, I'm a sucker for that. That's my Hallmark movie. That's
I love that too. Like, it's not as though they exist to solve crimes and keep the great British public safe. No, they exist solely as matchmakers.
They exist for the sexual tension, to witness the sexual tension between these two. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of sex...
Mm-hmm.
Red pants at Christmas.
Red pants always? But
yes,
red pants
but
particularly?
Also on Christmas.
What about red pants at Christmas?
Happy red pants Christmas sex.
Is that a thing? Is that a trope?
I think it is.
I mean, is that specifically a Christmas trope? I mean, I have read several.
But going back to Angst.
Okay, that's enough of that.
No, we can't have happy for too long. It'll get tedious.
But you don't have anything else to say about it? Just that they exist? Yeah. There are fics that exist.
Yes, and we approve of the red pants, for the record.
Yeah,
at least I do.
I approve of them on, off, dangling off of a branch of the Christmas tree, being used as mistletoe, any of the above. That's acceptable.
Or for flossing.
Oh. Sure. Sherlock and John as gift givers.
Yes.
What do they like?
Definitely a topic commonly dealt with in fic. I think Sherlock often gets really worried about what to get, and then he turns out to be the most thoughtful gift giver ever.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
He's a panic one, but not a panic buyer. He just panics about the right kind of gift for John. Which, of course, he always comes up with.
I mean, I can't remember a single fic in which he would have, failed miserably at it.
No.
And John usually manages to buy him something nice, which he likes, but it's not, as geniusly thoughtful as what Sherlock gets him.
Sometimes, however, writing out loud's Two Turtle Doves series that she wrote this year, all 221Bs, and every single one of them, it's an advent calendar of John buying a little gift for Sherlock every day for Advent. And they're all very thoughtful and very sweet.
Oh, there's also ugly Christmas jumpers and Sherlock hating them.
Yes. And John making it kind of a competition to see.
There was that one holiday fic this year, I think, that was John and Sherlock trying to one-up each other in finding horrible Christmas jumpers.
Enter the Tadpole is writing it. It's a whip still. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hilarious and wonderful. Yes. I'll have to look up the name of it.
No, but how did we end up with ugly jumpers? We were supposed to go back to Angst. You
said it.
You derailed me.
Because there's no angst. That's enough angst at Christmas.
No, but what about Christmas stories where a lot of years have passed and they've sort of estranged, and then someone who knows them both sort of arranges a meeting, or there's a chance meeting between them. Yeah, John and Sherlock.
Oh, I don't read those. That's too sad for me.
Yeah, you don't like the ones where they break up.
I don't. I can't handle it. What is the point? What is the point of that? I am here for John and Sherlock.
There's that leads to a lot of high quality pain, and then there can be a nice reunion with possibly with red pants and cock.
There are several that I have read that have done it well. As long as I'm promised the reunion, then I will read it. But if the estrangement comes at the end, which I know some of them have, some of them that you have told me to read that I don't think I've forgiven you for yet. I can't do it. I can't do it if they don't end up together. No thanks.
Next trope. Sherlock being not very religious and being very vocal about thinking that religious holidays are ridiculous.
And not just vocal, but being very sarcastic about it. And yeah. I enjoy that.
It's a part of that whole him having very little genuine Christmas spirit until John teaches him about it trope.
Yeah, and teaches him about like the joy of having someone with you on Christmas.
Yeah. What about John's crappy childhood Christmases? Are those a fic trope, do you think?
That's a good one. I like that one quite a lot, actually. I like anything that deals with John's childhood being not great. There's both of them. I like any stories that have to do with their childhoods and how neither of them were great for various reasons. Also, this is related, any stories in which Harry makes an appearance at Christmas. Those are some of my favorites. Either John goes to visit her.
We need more of those.
We need more Harry. I adore Harry Watson.
We need Harry on screen. We need more about John's family.
Yeah, we do. I agree. Yeah, but I don't want the letdown if on-screen Harry Watson isn't as great as we've hyped her up to be as a fandom, because I feel like she is a favorite character in our fandom, considering all we know about her is a couple of mentions and a few blog comments. We've almost entirely created this character out of thin air as a fandom.
And it's the same with Victor Trevor. He's like larger than life in fic, and we only got to see him as a kid who died on screen. It's almost like a rite of passage for new Sherlock fic authors to at some point dig out the adventure of the glorious Scot and write their own version of it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Or at least include that version of Victor somewhere, like where they meet in university or whatever, and he was maybe possibly an old boyfriend or something.
He gets to be dead a lot.
He gets to be dead.
And I fed him to an outer hell god. Sorry, Victor.
Oh yeah, we sure did. Yeah. No, we're not sorry about that. That's wonderful. Oh, my favorite, I just had to go look up the name of it because I never remember the title of this. I'm sorry, Beautifulfiction. The Great Reward by Beautifulfiction is one of my favorites that involves Harry. And I even have written myself notes on it now because I just remember it as the one where everyone's drunk at Harry's. And they get snowed in. So John goes to a Christmas party or maybe it's New Year's.
I need to put that on my marked for later list.
So it's one of those that I've read probably 5 times, and each time I read it as though I've never read it before, and every time I get halfway through it, I'm like, oh yeah, I love this story. I don't know what it is about that I have such brain block on, but I get to experience it like the first time every time. I've also listened to the podfic almost all the way through more than once before realizing that it was the same story. Love this story. Experienced it many times as though it's the first time.
You're not usually such a goldfish brain.
No, I'm not. There's something about that one in particular, but I had to just go look up the title of it again.
Well, you were that a bit today when you started like reading that story from chapter 1 without realizing you were supposed to read chapter 10.
I was nearly done with chapter 1. I didn't even catch on that it was the first chapter until he was polishing his sword. That's when I caught on. I was like, wait a second. And they were discussing what he was going to go do at the Sandhurst reunion. And I was like, hold on. This happened already.
Deja vu.
Deja vu, yeah. 10 chapters later. One of my other favorite fic tropes that are Christmassy, which I don't think we talked about, but it kind of goes along with their great reward, is being snowed in. We didn't talk about that one yet. But
yeah,
man,
that
I'm
happens a
sucker
lot.
for a good snowed in fic. Snowed in at 221B, snowed in while, investigating a crime somewhere. Bonus if they have to hole up in a inn with only one bed and no heat. Give it to me. All of it. Give me all the snowed in fics.
Because it's cozy. I'm on to you.
Riding through
Yep.
Yeah, a girl's name. Oh shoot, I think it was her. Just wrote a fic on Christmas that was they get sort of snowed in, but then they have to ride in a carriage, and it was just the most romantic.
Is that the recent one?
Yeah, very recent.
Oh,
Just
I
posted
love
on
that.
Christmas.
Yeah, that
Beautiful.
was great.
So just anytime there's snow involved, and I live in a place where there's lots of snow, so it just Christmas isn't Christmas without snow.
We got a bit 2 days ago and it all melted away. But I managed to social media it before it disappeared.
Oh, well, thank God.
Yeah.
Christmas is saved.
Yeah. So, what up with Elsie Christmas?
Well, that seems like a very long time ago, even though it was only a few days. This was a pretty quiet Christmas. We had none of the usual drive around to 17 different people's places. I am very lucky to have lots of family that lives nearby. But then that means that on Christmas, my husband and I spend close to an entire week driving our children to and from various events and activities and things to see all of our family. So we got to avoid most of that this year, which I didn't mind. We did it all virtually, so we still got to see, I think, everyone we normally would have. We met up with a few people quickly in parking lots to exchange gifts and mailed the rest and did it virtually. So I don't really feel like I was lacking a whole lot from this Christmas, and it ended up being even more relaxing than usual. So yeah, it's cozy, very cozy.
Yeah, cozy is that's your dream Jeopardy category.
Well, how many questions would there really be?
I don't know.
Just would is cozy just be the answer to all of them?
Yeah.
Elsie's permanent state of being between October and March.
Yeah,
what is cozy?
Like this woman has taught me the value of a few strategically placed holiday-themed decorative pillows
and candles. Don't forget the candles; they're important.
Oh, I was all down with candles even before you came along.
Yes, but you never lit them.
That is true. Because I always buy these like Mycroft level posh ones, which are like too expensive to light. So yeah,
that's the dumbest sentence.
No.
Well, stop buying the posh ones. Buy the cheapy craft store ones so that you can light them and use them.
I should buy the pleb ones too. That's what like Mycroft would say.
The rest of us plebs buy the plebeian candles.
All right, that will be my New Year's resolution. Buy crappier candles.
Resolution.
Whatever. I had a beer. Well, technically,
you had a beer before doing this?
No, it was a glug spritzer.
Why'd you say beer?
I don't know. I panicked.
You don't even drink beer.
I do.
Yes, you do. I'm sorry. Yes, you do. I made that error.
Yes. Because it tastes better than cider and it doesn't make me pee all the time.
Yeah, okay. Yes, I already had to lecture about how cider makes you pee because there's more volume than a 5-ounce glass of wine. Obviously.
Rude.
That's exactly how you sound.
Sorry.
So what was your Christmas like?
Well, Christmas Eve was pretty traditional. We got together with my in-laws and my mother and my husband's brother and his girlfriend. We were still a pretty small group. We do this every year because, well, we've got space at our estate, so it's nice to get to have people over. It was pretty mellow, pretty quiet, and on Christmas Day I was actually on call, but I was backup call, so I only had to be at the hospital as long as there was work for 2 people. So that, yeah, I got to come home and spend my day disgruntled carrying a phone around. Yeah, we binged a lot of episodes of The Crown, as we usually do. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of that, that's a pretty nice segue into, are we going to tell the saga of the Christmas tree story?
Oh, yes. Our Christmas was nearly treeless this year.
Nearly ruined by Elsie, you can say it.
No,
it's all right.
No, it's not the pandemic is not your fault, Elsie.
Oh, but me not mailing it till November definitely is.
Yeah, but well, let's start from the beginning, shall we?
Yeah.
Otherwise, this will get confusing. So last year, we had a real tree, as we've always had. All my life, we've had a real tree, a real spruce, forest grown. And last year, the base of it sort of flooded and it ruined a part of our birchwood floor in the sitting room. So that combined with the fact that I learned that there are some really cool and realistic looking trees available in the States where Elsie lives. So those 2 facts combined finally prepared me emotionally to acquiring a fake Christmas tree. And of course I wanted a nice one. So first of all, none of the tree companies in the US were willing to ship one over here to the Nordic countries, because I can kind of understand that they wouldn't want to deal with returns. Because those things weigh quite a lot. So,
and also they probably think you're ridiculous.
Yeah. So what I ended up doing was getting one of these trees delivered to Elsie's house, and you were supposed to bring it to me when you were coming to visit in May. So yes, you were gonna
June.
Yeah,
June.
Yep, June, whatever. So
yes, Christmas in June.
Yeah. So you were gonna put yourself in a Christmas tree on a plane in June and come visit me. But then the pandemic happened. And that tree sat in your foyer, probably, or storage.
The basement.
Whatever.
It got moved to the basement and out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. And at some point I reminded you gently that you might want to ship it to me so that I would actually have it at Christmas.
I think that was October that you reminded me gently.
Because we were convinced that the US Postal Service could still do it.
Yeah.
But then it turned out that it took 20 days to travel 80 kilometers in the States, to the nearest big airport. Yep. But from there it got a bit quicker, though the US Postal Service's utterly useless tracking system claimed that it spent 7 days crossing the Atlantic on a plane. Which was...
I don't think it specified a plane. I think it was in a tugboat. Possibly a canoe.
Canoe, yeah. A swimming camel. A swimming grizzly bear.
Even that, I feel like, could make it in 7 days.
At one point, everyone started to get a bit worried, including your children, who were very saddened.
Especially my children.
Yeah, they were very saddened by the idea of Jay without a Christmas tree. But
that's right.
Yeah, but it did arrive on time. Like 4 days before Christmas, I got to pick it up.
Very last minute, and it made it to dramatic entrance, which is fitting for you, I think.
Yeah. And it looks as good as it was supposed to. It even impressed my very traditionalist father-in-law.
Yes.
So,
it's beautiful.
All's well that ends well.
And now you have it. Now you don't have to worry about Christmas trees ever again until this one looks too mangy to put up.
True. And so much stuff got cancelled. You never got to visit, and you didn't get to go to London, which you were supposed to do twice this year.
Twice.
And I didn't get to go to Cambridge as a visiting teacher, and yeah. It all sucked, basically.
It all sucked. Summary of 2020.
Yeah. Dumpster fire.
The dumpster fire of the year. Good riddance. Feels pertinent that we're doing this on the 31st now instead of on Christmas. And, now we can wish a big ol' happy good riddance.
Like we were supposed to record this much earlier, but understandably for someone who gets lots of visitors on Christmas and for a mother of a big family, the days just before Christmas get pretty busy. And then you got sick, which is like the perfectly morbid ending to this whole year.
Yes, it truly is.
Yeah.
Very poetic, I guess. Stupid COVID.
Yep.
Guess I said it.
And meanwhile, I'm waiting for my COVID vaccination. Because as an anesthesiologist, I'm in a pretty high priority group. So I'm very much looking forward to that as 2021 starts.
I think you should have a glass of champagne when you get it.
Yeah.
I'll have one. I'll have a glass of champagne for your vaccine. One step closer.
Like, not everything about this year has been so terrible, though. I mean, people have still been pretty creative, and this year has even given birth to, like, an entirely new genre of fanfic, namely quarantine fic.
Quarantine fic!
Yes. As I was putting together my recommendation lists for this year's fresh fic, I was actually, like, really positively surprised and pleased to see, like so many new authors and so many fresh AUs and like so much wonderful creative stuff. This fandom is far from dying, even though we haven't had new episodes for a while.
It feels like there's been an explosion of new authors this year. New authors coming in with hundreds of thousands of words this year. Like, who just came in with a bang. We're always getting new authors, but it feels like there's been a lot of authors that have written a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah, and several ones who have like really came in with like the hinges creaking, like people who have got a lot of readers and a lot of very well-deserved attention right away.
Yeah, very quickly. And because of just the volume they're churning out. I mean, that's the best way to get a lot of readers very quickly, is just to crank out a whole lot of stuff for people to read.
Yeah, and even though lots of cons got cancelled too, I think this year has proven, both in fandom and in the business world, how much you can actually do online, that you don't actually always have to drag people all across the globe to do something.
And sometimes it's kind of fun. I mean, I would much prefer in-person anything always, but the virtual does have its perks. Namely, you can stay in your pajamas and drink coffee in your bedroom and participate in the con.
Yeah, like, I think we could have, like, the best of both worlds in the future. Like, we can have the physical cons, and we can have a lot more, like, live interaction with people online, since not everyone has the funds or the otherwise the possibility to travel to cons. So
yeah,
we could do a lot with that.
And we have such a far-flung international fandom that there's always going to be someone that the trip is simply too far. So yeah, that would include everybody, just like the virtual con did.
Did you receive any Sherlockian Christmas gifts this year?
I did, actually. One's right next to me. I nearly forgot about it. I got a candle that is apparently the scent of Sherlock's study. And I described it the other day as, I don't even remember. Does it smell like sexy man sweat? That's exactly, I was going to say sexy man musk. Is that what I said the other day? Are you quoting me? It's possible.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, Sherlock study. And it's by an Etsy company called Book Lovers Soy Candles, which I let me just shout out to them because I have several of them and they're really good. But this one is cherrywood tobacco and rain is apparently what this one smells like. It just smells like what I imagine 221B Baker Street. Exactly how it would smell.
If it smells like rain, then I'm really concerned for the state of their roof.
Maybe their window's open. Their window is open
true.
because Sherlock's smoking out of it, obviously. Hence the tobacco. This is in the Victorian era. He's not just puffing away at his tobacco inside. It's 2020 for Pete's sake. Yeah, it does evoke sort of the Victorian Abominable Bride setting of 221B rather than the more modern one. But regardless, it smells good.
Mold.
I can't smell it currently, but I'm imagining that it smells good.
Mold and smog and...
Oh, well, you just are a fun sponge, aren't you? Did you get any Sherlock Christmas presents, fun sponge?
Oh, I did. I got a bunch. I probably won't remember them, like off the top of my head. I received a copy of the book version of Electric Pink Hand Grenade, which I'm very happy about because it was one of the first fics I ever read. It's still one of my favorites.
It was the first fic I ever read.
It seems to be a lot of people's first fic that they ever read. It's definitely a classic. And I got some lovely cards. Corsair sent me a lovely Christmas card. That was nice. Bee bracelet. Bee stationery.
I did get bee stuff. Mm-hmm.
Lots of bee stuff, yes. I wonder how my bees are doing. They're overwintering now in their nest, which will be moved to our estate next spring.
Yay.
I haven't seen them since the 6th of December. But they're not doing much, so there's no point in going there and exposing them to the cold by opening the nest. But
just go talk to them. Tell them you're thinking of them.
Yeah. But yeah, I suspect that I will have more Sherlockian Christmas gifts once yours arrive.
I'm trying to remember if there is anything Sherlock themed in there. I think so. Yes.
So you're the same as me that you keep forgetting what you bought people.
Well, to be fair, it was almost 2 months ago that I put stuff in there.
I usually start buying Christmas gifts in January because that's when all the sales are.
Yeah, I mailed it December 1st, and it had been packed for a couple days before that at least. Yeah. It'll be a surprise to me, too, what shows up in that box.
Journey of discovery.
Yeah. Yeah, I did get quite a few bee-themed things, and I received a lovely Christmas card as well from a fandom friend from Holmesy in Love. She sent me one. All the way from so far away in Australia.
That's sweet.
That one got here quicker than your guest did.
Yeah, there's supposed to be no flights at all to Australia or something, so well done, Australian Postal Service.
Managed to get it all the way here to Chicago.
Yeah.
Can't manage to get a package from the Nordic countries.
No.
I sent you a card, too. Did that ever come?
Not yet.
No. Okay. Well,
the U.S. Postal Service, also a dumpster fire.
Well, yeah.
I hope they're listening.
I'm sure they are.
Their tracking service is the worst. They pretend to have one, but all that it tells you is that your package is moving from one place to another place, and it will arrive whenever.
At some point, yes.
At some point in the future, before the sun goes nova. So, shall we move on to the Ask box?
Sure.
Yeah. And we've got a very nice anonymous here as the first one, who wanted to know how a new fic writer might go about gaining recognition, where to start. And secondly, how one might improve their arsenal of usable words, not just vocabulary, but words that you can actively choose from in your brain when needing to describe something.
Shall I answer this one first?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay. All right, I will. I still feel like a new writer, even though I've been in this fandom for, I think, over 3 years now. Or at least it was 3.5 years ago or so when I started watching the show. I think I joined the fandom in January, so just about 3 years. But I still feel like a new person, even though I guess I can now boast a somewhat impressive fic collection and some impressive fic collaborations, like the person I'm talking to currently. But I think that everybody that's in this fandom, so every single person listening to this who feels like they're part of this fandom, whether it's as a reader or a writer or a artist or what have you, every single person belongs, and they have something very unique to add to our fandom. They have a special something that no one else in this fandom can offer. So I think then it's their job, as it's your job, each of our jobs, to fill that specific little niche for ourselves, and to then let the rest of the fandom know that we're doing that. So by promoting our own work, even though some days I would rather have a root canal than promote my own stories, I'd rather just, toss a link up on up to AO3 and be like, I wrote a thing, it's terrible, please don't read it. But I have learned that self-promoting is the best way to promote and to get other people to notice your work, because if people don't know about your work, then they can't read your work. And there's such a vast amount of fic and art and wonderful things happening in this fandom every minute that it is sort of overwhelming as a reader to pick through and find something new to read, even though there's so much to choose from. So yeah, being self-promoting, even though it feels very cringy, is the best way to let people know what you're doing. And no one should be ashamed of that, because you have a unique thing that you're bringing to this fandom that no one else can. Other ways to get yourself noticed is to read other people's work and comment on it. I have met nearly all of my fandom friends that way, by commenting on their work. That's how Jay and I originally hit it off, was commenting on each other's work simultaneously, after I had, stalked through her entire collection for the first few months. But that's how connections are formed. That's how friendships are started. And that's how people learn to know your name as a common, familiar fandom name, is by just being out there. Get yourself involved in writing groups if that's your thing. Get yourself involved in the various forms of social media. Participate in fic prompt lists if that's your thing. Participate in things like the Inktober, stuff like that. Just participate in the fandom, and then you'll become part of sort of the tapestry of the fandom. Or if you come upon a fic rec list that someone else has made, it's almost always perfectly acceptable to toss in a self-rec if you think that a story that you've written fits that particular topic or trope. As far as the arsenal of usable words, I love this phrase. I read. The more you read, the more words you come across. Read fics by a large quantity of different writers to get a larger, vocabulary. And whenever I encounter a word, I love words. I love using words. I love finding new words. I love authors who are brave enough to use really neat, unusual words. And whenever I find one of those words, I immediately look it up. If I'm reading on my phone, which is usually where I read, if you long press on a word, you can look up the definition, which I do all the time. And then I kind of tuck it away if it's a good one for later use. I have sort of just like a mind list. I don't have them written down anywhere, but just sort of a mind list. And I try and, this makes it sound way more organized, but I try and use them at some point in my own vernacular so that I can collect it as my own. I'm always collecting words. And I swear by a thesaurus when I write. Not always in the first draft, but if I come across a spot while I'm writing where it needs a certain word, but I can't come up with it at the time, I use brackets. And in the brackets, I will put, like, the square brackets. And in the brackets, I will put either the word that's close to what I'm trying to say, but not exactly it. Or sometimes I'll even just put, like, a quickie little description. And I know there are websites. A placeholder, or like I'll write something like kind of sparkly but not really, or something like that, where it'll just sort of trigger what my thought process was without me having to sit there and spend 5 minutes trying to think of a word. Sometimes I do still, but and a lot of times it'll trigger something when I go back through a later reread, and I'm like, oh, the word I wanted to say was whatever. Shimmering. That's the one I was looking for. I don't believe I've ever written that in a story. Apparently I'm thinking of vampires, but...
The synonym function in Word is actually pretty good. Like, I use that all the time. Like, if I've used a word in a paragraph, I don't want to repeat it, so I use that synonym function to find new ones.
Yeah, I use the synonym feature every time I write. And,
but of course, some of it will stick in your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And very much seconded on the reading lots of stuff. That will give you new expressions and new vocabulary.
Yes. This is my native language, and I'm still impressed by people, especially ones that aren't native speakers, and the words that they use.
Next one from an anonymous as well. I have an idea for a fic in mind, but I'm hesitant to post it because of a number of reasons. I feel like I'm a terrible writer and that no one will like or read it. I'm not very confident in myself. Do you have any advice for me? Also, how do you manage to go from an idea to a fic? So how could we help this person? Well, most of my fics start from this mental image. It's like a sudden flash of what's going on in a scene. I don't necessarily have the whole plot worked out in my head before I start writing. I just want that initial spark on paper, so then I've got something concrete. It exists now, the story exists, so then I can start sort of structuring things around it. So you don't have to have an elaborate plan to be able to write that first scene. So I think that's a very sort of low threshold way of starting out a story. And I think what you Elsie, what you just said about like posting a first fic and getting recognition also applies to like plucking up the courage to do so. I mean, this is such a huge fandom that there is an audience for everything. I mean, I can't think of a style or an author or an idea or a story that wouldn't find a home and wouldn't find a readership in a fandom this big. Of course, it also means that there's quite fierce... I'm not sure if I want to use the word competition, because we're not really competing with each other, but like... It must feel quite frustrating for some new authors because they can't quite know how to find their readers in such a massive churning sea of new fic coming out every year. But there are ways to do that, and reaching out to other authors and commenting on their works and showing an interest in what other fans are doing. I think that's like the best way of getting to know everyone and for everyone to get to know you. And there is no permission that you have to seek. There is no license that you have to apply for to publish fic. I mean, this is the beauty of it. We don't have to deal with the gatekeepers of the professional publication world. This is a world that's open to everyone. That's the beauty of fandom.
Yep. Everybody's allowed to write. Everybody's encouraged to write.
Everybody's welcome.
Share.
I love seeing new people, and I love helping new people by posting recommendations of their work and introducing them to people. All right, so next question from Saint Scully, who is actually one of our newer authors.
Yeah, but one of those that's like exploded.
Yeah,
with
they've
year.
made quite a bang.
Came out of the woodwork with like the Kool-Aid man, just
Yep.
like bam, I'm here and I'm writing a ton.
So,
I'm gonna read this one. Do you mind?
All right. Yep. Go ahead.
All right. Zane Scully had 3 really good questions for us, and I wanted to read it because I wanted to hear your answer first. Number 1, what was your favorite fic or fics from this year? Number 2, what will be the first thing you do if COVID magically disappeared today? Funny enough, I think my answer has changed since last week. And number 3, if you could have a magic wish that would force Mantis to rewrite one scene on the show, what would it be?
Oh, wow. Good questions. Off the top of my head, I would have said Drawn to Stars by Silver Girl, but that was actually published last year, wasn't it?
I don't know. Don't ask me about years.
You're not the Sherlock fic librarian.
I'm not the Sherlock fic librarian, and I couldn't even tell you. I have no idea what happened this year.
It's just a blur, basically.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible, terrible apocalyptic blur.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I mean, I've got so many favorites. It would feel quite unfair to only list one. But if I had to name a few that have really stuck with me are, well, of course, the ones that I participated in as a beta, including Chances Are by Bertie and Extraction by Holmesy and Love. There were others too. I really loved Written in Ashes by 88th Parallel, and not just because I helped her out with it. I'm very fond of the X-Files episode it's based on, and I think 88th Parallel did a really good job in adapting that as a Sherlock story.
Yes, agreed.
Then there's Quarantine by Wendy Marlowe, which was a fic that updated basically every day, and I think it helped keep a lot of us fans sane to see Sherlock and John going through all that too. And
yes.
it was really touching, and I have no idea how Wendy came up with so much wonderful stuff every day for it.
I know. She's impressive that way.
And Erosion by Zane Scully was very impressive. Ghosting John Watson by Felshish was just brilliant. I mean, we can always trust Felshish to deliver a quirky, fun fic that then kicks you in the emotional nuts.
And clever. So clever. Such a clever concept.
Yeah, very clever. And Baker Tumblings is one of my absolute favorite authors. They do excellent medical, realistic agency, and Survival Mode definitely didn't disappoint. I mean, it's a very novel concept. It's a very fresh take on the whole Sherlock and John meeting, and I really liked it. It was pretty dark, but it was very realistic and well told. So I think those are the ones that really stuck with me. But as you can see from the length of my rec list, there was a lot of good fic this year. So yes. What about you?
I'm gonna take the cop-out answer and say that I've already, just like you, I've curated many of these fic lists, although I don't think all of mine were from this year. I had a couple favorites that I'll probably have to find the names of and come back to.
You can always post a rec list on Tumblr.
I've posted tons of rec lists on Tumblr. I've posted one approximately every 2 weeks since con.
Yes, true. You've been running those Zoom meetings.
Exactly. So those aren't necessarily my own personal rec list, but many of my own personal recommendations in there. I have a whole spreadsheet with all of them on, which I will repost to Tumblr and Twitter probably today, where you can find all of those many lists.
Oh, one thing that I've learned this year is that there are many reading groups in the fandom, which I wasn't very aware of, and I've now joined.
I think some of them are new.
And it's a lot of fun. And you've been running those Zoom meetings after the con.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the fic chats every 2 weeks or so. Yeah, those are a lot of fun too. Mm-hmm. There's actually sometimes talk about fic too in them. Usually about an hour of nonsense and then a little bit of fic talk.
Hour of high quality nonsense.
High quality, yes.
Yeah. Oh, and Slipstream by Corsair, since I wasn't looking at my work in progress rec list, so I wanted to add that. Mm-hmm. So what would be the first thing you'd do if COVID suddenly went poof? I would buy a plane ticket so fast my Visa card would catch fire. And come see you.
And hug me.
Yes.
Yes. The Hallmark commercial for next Christmas.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you could have a magic wish that would force Moftis to rewrite one scene of the show, what would it be?
Oh, I know mine. Easy peasy.
Go ahead.
Well, if I just had to pick one scene from a whole episode I'd rewrite would be from the final problem. There's many, many problems in that episode. But the one scene that has tripped my trigger ever since I saw it was when Sherlock ignores John's Vatican cameos. Because never in a million years would my Sherlock ignore a Vatican cameos. Never. It's bothered me ever since I watched it. That's the one I would pick.
My pick would also be from the final problem. I would remove Molly's part in that episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For her sake,
I would make that I
John
love you scene about John.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for her sake just as much as for the sake of them having a love confession, but they did her dirty, man.
Yeah, like, obviously Molly is not in a very good place. So, what's going on with her?
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason she shouldn't be.
Like, she was miserable before they called her, so, like, we need a Molly spin-off.
Have there been any fics written about that? I need a fic about that.
I bet there is one. So if you know of one, tell us. We want to help Molly.
Tell us in the comments. Are you turning into a YouTuber now?
No.
Drop a line in the comments.
No.
You're not going to be an influencer anytime soon? Is that what you're saying?
No.
I think you already are.
Sassy. Next question. What animals best describe Sherlock, John, and perhaps anyone else? And have we written them as animals?
I have not written them as animals ever.
Me neither.
No. I always associate bees with Sherlock, although I don't think he necessarily is like one. Well, they're very busy.
I think, of course, we've got the obvious, well-known comparisons of hedgehogs and otters. I believe there is actually a zoo that named one of its otters Benedict.
As it should. I was going to say that's more of a Benedict and Martin thing than a Sherlock and John, although I know it's kind of crossed over to include them too. But
and I think it's sort of a fandom trope that Sherlock often gets compared to a cat when he's content in a relationship.
Yes.
I do know of stories where they are animals. I haven't read many of them, but there is one which I enjoyed greatly, and that's Corsair's The Horse and His Doctor. Yeah.
I've never read it, but it was a hot topic of conversation in one of our fic chats one time, and everyone said the same thing. Don't think I'd ever read an animal story, but that one was the one.
I promise you, it is not creepy in any way.
Well, I wouldn't believe that it would be creepy coming from Corsair.
Corsair, we trust you never to turn creepy.
I trust you not to write creepy. At least I trust her to write purposeful creepy, but not creepy animals. Yeah, that one's on. I mean, it's been on my list, but maybe 2020 will be the year. 2021.
I've got like 5,000 fics on my list.
Oh, easily, yeah. And I feel like I didn't do a very good job of reading things.
No,
this year.
I wrote more than I read this year.
Oh, I didn't really do that either. I wrote more than I think that I did. That month of anniversary fics saved my year total. But yeah, my reading definitely suffered this year. Not like I didn't have the time.
Do you want to read the next question?
Silvergirl asked, you both collaborate with another writer on big fics. Have you ever thought about show running a collectively authored fic? Such as a different author for each chapter, for example, or paired chapters where the same events are rendered in two different point of views. Ooh, I like that. Expanding the number of collaborators, and thus of styles could be fun if you gave them plot trajectory and/or parameters for overall coherence. I like that idea. I mean, you kind of did that with the cookie fics. You and Seven came up with that idea, didn't you?
No, I think it was actually Anya who came up with the cookie fic.
That's right.
Idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We didn't really have any hard or fast rules for it, but you just had to take your fortune cookie and come up with a fic that would fit that. So
yeah. That was a fun one. I enjoyed doing that.
I'm not sure how good or how much I would enjoy running like a big writer's room for like 7 authors in one fic, but that is an intriguing idea to like make more of a coherent plan for a bunch of people to follow.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by this idea. I mean, I like to plan and organize people. That should be no surprise to you.
Since you're a teacher.
Yeah, as a teacher and a mom, I think I'm often planning and organizing groups of people. I like this idea, and I especially I'm a sucker for the same story being told from the main character's points of view. I love that as a storytelling style, getting to hear from both characters. It makes way for a lot of angst, and it also makes for a lot of humor, I think, too. Yeah,
it's a good way to demonstrate miscommunication and how we live in our own heads. And,
I love.
Yeah, we live for that shit.
I love that shit. Yeah.
Pining and miscommunication, bring it.
Delicious. Writing Out Loud has a fic. Now the name of it is escaping me, but she has a fic where she did this brilliantly, where she had the same story told from both characters' point of view. I'll find the name of it. It's brilliant. Yeah, that's a good thought, Silvergirl. I'm gonna note that. Pocket that one away. That's a fun thing that I might be interested in doing. Yeah.
Next question. What is the worst Christmas that Sherlock's had in any of your stories?
I think you win for the worst Christmas Sherlock's had ever in any story. And he's had a few.
Yeah, but I think the one in By a Thousand Cuts really takes the cake.
Takes it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you sure do love to torture that man, don't you?
Yeah. Physically,
emotionally, just pile it on.
And the weird thing is that when I was writing and publishing that story with the 7% solution, I was actually having a bit of a family drama Christmas myself. So I could really relate to Sherlock. My Christmases have been very sort of amicable and mellow since, but it just happened to be that Christmas that a lot of things in my life sort of came to a head. So it was fitting that it should happen to our Baker Street boys that year as well.
Writing as therapy is always a good thing.
Yeah, it did feel like
therapeutic.
It wasn't like the most therapeutic story I've ever written, like personally for me, but yeah, it was kind of fitting.
Good timing.
Yep.
Or bad timing.
Yep. What about you?
I have set very few stories around Christmas time. I did the one 2 years ago that was a spin-off of A Christmas Carol. So that was a pretty bad time for Sherlock, being visited by various ghosts, but it turned out all right.
I love those. There's like several of them. I adore them. Yeah. I love the concept.
I really love that too. Also, any of them that are a spin-off of, or like a, what is the word I'm looking for? What do we call that? You know, the thing where you take a story and then you rewrite it. Anyway, the ones that are
drawing a blank here.
Things. This is the problem when we share a brain. We also share brain farts,
we're
apparently.
Always dumb at the same time.
Yeah. The holes in our brains happen at the same time, too.
Okay.
Any of them that are for A Wonderful Life, too. I'm a sucker for those. But yeah, Sherlock didn't have a very good time in that one. And when I wrote the kind of sequel, follow-up story to 100 Crimson Souls, that took place at Christmas time, and Sherlock was having a pretty bad time then, too. Nothing was going right. Everything was wrong. When the Dust Settles is what that one is. Those are the only two I've written at Christmas. Neither of them were too terrible for him, but they weren't great either.
Like, it's no secret that I'm not so much a fan of fluff unless it's paired with, like, a truckload of angst. So Christmas lends itself really good to that combination. Like first, like, wrist-slitting levels of angst, and then softened up with some twinkly Christmas lights and mince pies and a few hugs by the fireplace.
I think I described it as, I don't think you know what fluff means, woman. Angst, though. Truckloads of that. You certainly know that. Yeah,
I'm your girl for that.
Yeah, you're the girl.
Okay, moving on to the next question, which comes from Honeybee Motorcycles. Also a pretty recent arrival in the fandom, but a very active person.
Yes.
I assume the first one is for me. When I wrote...
I think they're both for you.
You wrote... When
you wrote the first story
in the You Go To My Head series, did I have a hunch that it was going to be popular? No. I don't have enough confidence to ever assume that anything I write is going to be particularly popular. I mean, I wake up in awe every day over the fact that some people are reading my stories. Honestly. So I thought that it was maybe going to be like this niche thing which some people thought was a lot of fun as an idea, but I never expected it to expand to such a long series and such a I think I could probably say that it's pretty well known. Yeah.
And you did it as sort of just an indulgent little experiment at first, didn't you?
Yeah, like I literally swore for years that I was never going to do a hospital AU because it seemed such a cliche coming from me. But I'm very glad I did. I still remember when that whole idea hit me, and I was doing a Christmas cleaning of the house all these years ago, and I was beating the carpets outside to rid them of dust, and I remember dialogue just started popping into my head, and by the time I got the whole cleaning thing done, I'd probably written half of the first story in my head. Yeah, trip down memory lane, that one. Next question. How did you pull off Sherlock's characterization in By 1,000 Cuts? We had both written enough stories, enough material in that series by the time, so we really had a very unified and sturdy idea of what this Sherlock is like and how he thinks. So it wasn't our first rodeo, so it was kind of easy to extrapolate from the context of the earlier stories how he would react in that situation, and why that Christmas would turn out to be so problematic for him. So I think it was just a sort of a good cushion of prior stories featuring this particular Sherlock that helped us do that. Next, I want to jump to this question from another anonymous. How do you think Will and John would spend Christmas on Mars? Well, you've sort of told a story about that already.
Yes, I've written that already once. But I don't think that was necessarily the way they'd want to spend Christmas. That just happened to be their first Christmas, and things weren't great.
No, there was quite a lot of strain going on in their relationship.
There was quite a lot of strain, yeah. There was quite a lot of stress from the dust storm that had rolled in. So yeah, that wasn't exactly the magical Christmas that I had imagined for them. But now that things have sort of settled, it's been another year then since I last visited them on Mars. I like to think that they're quite a bit more settled. They have sort of gotten comfortable in their marriage. They're a few years in now, and that they would spend it just sort of quietly together, maybe reminiscing on the past few years together, maybe talking about Christmases when they were young. Maybe Will would be remembering Christmases spent with his mom before she died. And yeah, overall it would be very fluffy and happy and very lovely. Have you died of grossness? Because I used the F word, the fluff.
No. No, I just got all dreamy and feelsy imagining that.
And Will. We love Will.
Yes.
There would be more sweet moments in their greenhouse because, damn it, I love those two in the greenhouse. Seems to be a fairly common feeling, too. Doesn't matter if the greenhouse
it's like the only place where they can go on a holiday, really.
Yeah.
Mini holiday.
Probably for Will, that's not much of a holiday since he spends most of his working time in there, but...
Sex holiday behind some palm trees.
Yeah. Some mini... Would they have palm trees on Mars? Those aren't very important.
Some leafy nookie blowjob behind a ficus.
A lovely fern or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice leafy protection from, any other Martian scientists who wandered in.
Yeah.
There's some of those. They're pesky.
Mini sex holidays.
Yeah. Maybe they could go find a lovely crater to explore and have sex in.
Find
That's
a
what I wish for
nice them. Martian hole to plunder.
You went there, huh?
I had to. You weren't gonna.
Always. You always do.
So in the same vein, we've got an anonymous who wants to know if the Doctor Boys, also known as Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, if they have experienced this terrible pandemic. And the answer is it's yes and no. I didn't make it an official part of the series because it would have complicated things quite a lot, but there is a standalone story which I published. It's called Plagues and Locusts, which does detail the arrival of COVID in London and at King's College Hospital and how John and Sherlock might be reacting to that. So it's an AU of an AU, technically.
You also sort of freakishly anticipated this.
Oh God, yeah, that was creepy. That has been pointed out by plenty of people.
That was a bit witchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a few years ago, I published one of the parts of the You Go to My Head series, and in that story, a pandemic arrives in London caused by a coronavirus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're scary sometimes.
Yeah. And in my defense, there had been like significant coronaviruses appearing all over the place even before COVID-19. I mean, SARS, which hit Canada quite hard, was a coronavirus. And there's also MERS, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome virus, which occasionally spreads from like dromedaries to people, and it has quite a frightening mortality rate. So it's great that it has stayed in that area and not caused widespread epidemics. So that's where I got the coronavirus idea. And also, I'm an oracle.
That too.
Next question. I received an email from a reader for whom Thermocline, which I published much earlier this year, resonated very much, and they wanted to know how an author can depict not just the factual level of traumatic psychological experiences, but also the emotional level of those experiences realistically without necessarily having gone through something like that themselves. And this reader was also curious how the idea of the nature of the relationship between Sherlock and his partner in that story came to me. One of the questions was that how does one express compassion but not pity through writing in that way? Thermocline for me featured a lot of stuff that I hadn't dealt with before. In fact, one of them was asexuality, and I was lucky to have a fellow fan who lent me their expertise. They read all the drafts and commented on them. Of course, every asexual person's experience is their own, and no one can speak for all of them. But I didn't want to fall into any like very crude or very sort of massive stereotypes or anything. So I hope that I did okay with that part of the story. As for Sherlock's abusive relationship in which he's still trapped when he meets John, thankfully I don't have personal experience of that sort of thing, but having met people who have gone through something like that, and having a bit of medical training and some experience in working with psychiatric patients, and as a GP, I sort of extrapolated from that and also read books and blogs, as I always do when I'm depicting something which I haven't experienced. So I used all of that to sort of try to imagine how Sherlock in particular, and as the Sherlock in this story, who is an asexual person, might deal with that situation. And one thing that was really important for me was to depict his strengths and not his weaknesses in getting out of that situation. I did not want him to be a damsel in distress. I mean, he makes some pretty stupid choices in that fic. I remember some screaming from readers, including you, about his choices. But maybe they are understandable, at least in some ways. Yeah. And I really wanted his situation and his asexuality to be a lot of food for thought for John, who, as those who have read the story know, is an incurable nautical horn dog in that story. Oh, bless him.
I think you handled it very well, like that sort of tension without really being tension, of how they worked that out without giving away any spoilers. Did we hit all of the questions?
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered all of the asks. Thank you for those.
Yeah, those are good ones.
Speaking of Christmas, incidentally, we've got another very small roundtable Seeing as we are both from countries that are decidedly not Great Britain. Or the United Kingdom, or England, or
we're not British.
We're not British. We can't even really imitate the accent. So
I can in my head after all of the Bridgerton and Great British Bake Off that I've been watching the last 2 days. I feel like my internal thoughts are completely in a British accent. Yes, let's talk about.
Let's talk about British Christmas and British Christmas food, to be precise, and other confusing British Christmas traditions, which we do not understand, but which could actually be good stuff to put in Sherlock fic.
Big fatter. Sure.
Yeah. Neither of us has actually spent Christmas in the UK, have we?
I've never even been to the UK, so no. I've spent exactly 0 days in the UK. I'm only a little bit about that.
I have visited England right before Christmas. I've been to the Winchester Christmas market and such, so I feel like I'm the expert here. First of all, since we love words, we're going to start with the fact that according to the internet, the British people sometimes refer to Christmas as Crimbo or Crimble, according to BBC.
Quite a lot. Yeah.
I've never seen that. How's that possible?
I've seen it a lot, especially this year, but I've seen it in previous years too. And the first time I saw it, I remember making a mental note that I was going to adopt that because it's so much faster, writing or saying Christmas.
I would pay good money to see Mycroft Holmes's expression when someone says Crimbo.
I feel like it's a thing that he says in secret, though.
Ironically.
Ironically, or like it just slips out because that's what he called it. That's what the family called it when he was young, so every once in a while when he's feeling particularly charitable, maybe it slips out.
I could imagine Sherlock using that word in front of him to rile him up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Crimble sounds like a thing Sherlock would say too.
Yeah. Next up, the Christmas pantomime, which are over-the-top musical comedies based on famous fairy tales. And they seem to involve puppetry, at least some of them, and like people in like villages put these up, and maybe they're on TV too. I don't know.
This is a thing that doesn't seem completely new to me, and I feel like I can picture this as a thing that it's been in my worldview at some point. But no, that's not a tradition here at all. So
I could imagine that if I was English, I would probably hate these.
Yes, because you hate puppets.
No.
They make you uneasy.
No.
I hate puppets. I hate puppets almost as much as I hate anything that's fakely cheery. God, I sound like you.
Well, after so much exposure, it is sort of, yeah.
We're just meshing into the same person.
Yeah.
I really do hate puppets, though. They creep me hell out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So we're going to nope on the Christmas pantomimes.
Especially the puppets that I think are used for this type of pantomime. The ones with the very exaggerated features, like the exaggerated noses. That's the stuff of nightmare fuel.
I'll take your word for it.
Let's move on, because I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Next. Every year, UK retailers, including John Lewis, Sainsbury and Tesco, release their Christmas advertisements. Instead of typical commercials, they are typically short films that tell a heartwarming story. People even count down to the day when the short films are released.
So are they released on Christmas, or are they released
I think it's before Christmas.
Okay. Because without the countdown thing, that's definitely a thing that happens here. There are Christmas adverts, Christmas commercials here.
Yeah, I mean, Coca-Cola always makes like a big budget one, don't they?
and they're heavy on the nostalgia. So they bring back the ones from 20 years ago sometimes, and or there's the Hershey Kisses one with the jingling bells. That's to Carol of the Bells. That commercial has been on at Christmas time since I can remember. Huh. It's on every single year. You know it's Christmas time when the Hershey Kisses start ding-a-linging. That one and the Coca-Cola commercials, which all seem very similar. Like, they may just be reusing the same 3 every couple of years. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't even really watch actual TV with commercials
somehow
anymore,
somehow the anti-capitalist in me doesn't really like the idea of, like, people having Christmas nostalgia for advertisements.
Being emotionally manipulated via commercial, you mean? Yeah, no, neither. I did cry like a baby, though, when I saw something. This year, someone on TikTok, I think, had the idea that they should bring back this Cheerios commercial that I remember airing when I was little. I think it was like late 80s, early 90s that this commercial aired, where this grandma is talking to this baby and using Cheerios to kind of make a map on her high chair, to show where all of the relatives live and that they'll all be together at Christmas no matter what. This was the 90s version. And somebody was like, what if they made a quarantine version of that? And they tagged Cheerios. And so Cheerios made a commercial using the same baby as a now 20-year-old. And then the grandma, could have been the same woman. But it was via FaceTime, and it was the same. We'll all be together in some way. I'm going to cry just talking about it.
That's actually pretty cool. Partly yay, to some extent nay, on the Christmas advertisements.
I mean, if I have to watch commercials, I suppose I'd rather them be sort of nostalgic, and I'm even forgiving about the emotional manipulation. It's Christmas.
What about those exploding Christmas crackers? I know that they're popular in Australia, but that's understandable because they're a part of the Commonwealth. But do you have them in the US?
Not really. We do them sort of on New Year's Eve. I've made homemade ones for my kids before, but yeah, no, they're not a big thing.
You've made homemade explosives for your children.
No, but we've made the kind that you just pull them apart. They don't make the loud popping sound, but with toilet paper roll and then tissue paper, and they just pull them apart.
Oh,
and it make the pop.
Can you imagine the horror of like children with like sensory
yes,
auditory oversensitivity or something experiencing those crackers?
I don't have to imagine that. That was me as a child. That is me as an adult. That horrifies me. And it's the reason I made mine without the loud bang.
I spent Christmas with my relatives in Australia when I was about 14, and I remember that the part that really mortified me about these crackers was not the sound, but having to wear the paper crown. I thought that was really horrid.
The paper crown is the part that I actually really enjoy about this. I just like
it ruins my style. It cramps my style.
But I just like the idea of that tradition of like wearing it throughout the Christmas meal. That's not something that that one's new here. That doesn't happen here.
Paper crowns and tweed. That just doesn't work.
Sure it does. You just embrace it.
Mince pies.
Yeah, these confuse me quite a lot, actually. I don't really understand, because I know that they originated with mincemeat in them. Am I right about that?
But they still call the filling mincemeat.
Even though it has nothing to do with meat, now it's like
it has
candied fruits and things.
It has suet in it. So technically it still has pig bits.
I'm just not okay with any of this. But I've seen the ones that are mostly just like a sweet filling, not a savory at all. So it doesn't have suet.
Yes, it's like always a sweet filling, but the sweet filling has suet. It doesn't have butter, it has suet.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Like raisins and cloves and nutmeg and cinnamon and sweet things and pig bits.
Dried fruit and things. Yeah. I'd probably eat one. I'm not gonna lie. I would definitely eat that. I would eat the mincemeat version too.
I love them. I love mince pies. They're so great with that proper clotted cream.
I will have to experience this because I'm sort of fascinated by these and very confused by the name. I mean, I understand the name. I just don't know why we're still calling them mince pies if there's no mince in it.
And there was a Christmas fic which I read like this week where Sherlock was, well, he was trying to get together with John, but he was also very distracted by his mother's excellent mince pies.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another, like, it's not specifically a Christmas trope, but it's definitely a Sherlock fic trope that he has a huge sweet tooth.
And it comes out a lot at Christmas, though, I think, with, like, Mrs. Hudson's baking, and they can get him to do anything. Yeah. That's a trope. You can get Sherlock to do basically anything if you dangle a nice
and, like, it's only like the intensity of that sweet tooth that might be fanon, because we've seen him with those ginger nuts, and we've seen him raid Mrs. Hudson's kitchen and all that.
I feel like Mrs. Hudson had, like, an off comment, though.
Yeah.
At some point in canon where she said something about a sweet tooth. But yeah, maybe that's entirely fanon. It's been so long since I actually watched an episode, I can't even keep straight what's real or not. Also, it's 2020. What's real?
Yeah. This is we're in an AU of Earth this year.
Yes.
Okay, next confusing British Christmas dish. The Christmas pudding.
I don't find anything confusing about this. I have a sweet tooth just like Sherlock, so
yeah,
if anyone
but
wants
like
to
the whole
have any
ritual
sort of
of it that you start making it, like, is it like a month before and then you keep...
Is this the one that they light on fire?
Yeah, but you have to keep feeding it with like brandy or whatever. Like you have to keep moistening it and massaging it and worshipping it like a pagan god for weeks and weeks until you get to finally eat it.
Leaving little sacrificial offerings.
Yeah, I mean it's good, but it's just a pudding.
I eat it. Absolutely. I want something that elaborate. I love.
Yeah, I have to say that I'm
over the top elaborate.
Yeah, I'm kind of drawn to the concept. I'm very drawn to traditional stuffy British tradition whatever things.
And it has. I mean, I'm sure this originated in what year? Do you know? 1,000,000 years ago. This is probably. The original King of England probably made this up or some nonsense.
No, it actually has medieval origins, and there used to be very specific instructions from the Roman Catholic Church, Elsie.
I was only half kidding, but okay, of course it does.
And those instructions said that the pudding should be made on the 25th Sunday after Trinity, that it be prepared with 13 ingredients to represent Christ and the 12 apostles, and that every family member stir it in turn from east to west.
That's exactly the kind of stuffy nonsense that you love, isn't it?
Yeah. And this also reminds me of that scene in Monty Python's Holy Grail where they give the instructions for the use of the holy hand grenade of Antioch.
I'm still on board. I really like the drama of lighting it on fire too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on board with any overly dramatic food.
And
any of that. Give it to me.
And it appears that the point here is that you have to make it, and you have to do the worshipping of it. You can't just go out and buy it. That's cheating.
I'd love to hear from like our actual British friends how many of their families do this still. Is this a thing, or is this an antiquated tradition?
I know people who do this.
I'm sure you do.
I have eaten such a pudding, and I felt very honored to be awarded with a slice of something that requires that much labor.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a labor of love, yeah.
Yeah. Next Christmas treat from the United Kingdom. Having a special Christmas biscuit tin that feels a little ceremonious to open. I have like 3 tins like this. I understand the concept.
Tins of cookies. Yeah. The cookies were terrible. But they...
It's the thought that counts.
They all tasted exactly the same, and they all came in those, like, they were in, like, little paper, like, cupcake papers, basically, to keep the different flavors separated, which was hilarious, because they just all tasted the same, they just were different colors. But yeah, I don't even know where we got those growing up. I don't think I've actually seen one of those in, like, decades. Maybe they're still around. I've never purchased one, that's for sure. But I bet I could still wrangle up some of the tins laying around my parents' house, because those things last forever.
All right.
I feel like the thing that we would have that would be similar, comparable here, would be giant tins of 3 different flavored popcorn. That's a huge thing here. It's like a huge cylinder.
Is that
tin.
like a US thing or a Midwestern thing?
I don't know. That might just be a Midwestern thing. I have a feeling that's probably a fairly universally American thing, but I could be wrong.
Okay, the next one is quite a juicy one in terms of, like, thick. Brussels sprouts. Making a whole tray of Brussels sprouts for Christmas despite maybe only one person liking them. Is there a story that you are reminded by this?
Yeah, triggered by, I think would be a better term. I'm forever triggered by that story, but I love Brussels sprouts.
Me too. Roasted in the oven.
Roasted. Yeah. I was going to say boiled or steamed Brussels sprouts are an abomination. No one should disrespect a sprout like that. They have to be roasted to get the correct flavor. You skipped one on our list here that I'd like to go back and talk about.
Did I? Go on.
I would just say putting various fruits, doesn't have to be the satsuma, but putting various fruits in the bottom of the Christmas stocking, that is a tradition that we do here. And I don't know that that's a universal American thing, though. I just wonder if that may have been my German Lutheran upbringing, though. But yeah, we always have an orange or an apple in the toe of our Christmas stocking.
This stocking thing just completely eludes me. We don't do that here in the Nordic countries, but I don't understand the whole stocking thing.
Oh, this Christmas stocking is put out, so, I mean, ours they go up with the rest of our decorations. So they hang on our mantle. Some put them, like, on the ends of their beds. I think that's a more European tradition than American. Or we'll put out, like, their shoes to be filled. There's like, variations of this. But yeah, it's filled with treats by Santa. That's the whole point of it. And ours have adapted to become more like, so our Christmas stockings are the kids are filled by Santa, and then mine and my husband's are filled by each other. And, like, even our kids know that we fill each other's stockings once you're too old for Santa. Just to have an extra little something. But yeah, they're filled with, like, little candies and treats and little, like, tiny, like, small gifts.
Also, a husband and wife stuffing each other's stockings sounds totally like a British euphemism.
I think it is. Let you stuff I can't even.
Will you stuff my stocking, dear?
Stuff my stocking any day. Oh, that could be it. Can we write that? Let's write that as John and Sherlock. A pickup line.
Yep.
That's how they finally crossed that line. It's will you stuff my stocking this year?
That's when you know you're in an established relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, I thought that we might reminisce a little about what the year 2020 has been like for us, fic-wise and fandom-wise. What have been the highlights and so on. I think HomesCon was a big thing for both of us.
It was great that we still got to do it virtually, even though it was a very big disappointment that we didn't get to do it in person. Theme of the year.
It was a little less intimidating than it would have been to walk onto a stage and say, "Hi, I'm J Baillier," into a microphone.
I agree. Yes. It was a lot more. It was just a lot more relaxed. A lot more like just hanging out with a bunch of friends.
Yeah, and it really taught me to appreciate how much planning and how much work goes into
Yes.
arranging a virtual con. I think it became pretty much like a big sort of community effort. And it was so much fun to see all of these people like participating in the con from their homes. I mean, Arwell was zooming with us from the like sort of a man cave basement that he's built during this COVID year for himself, and he had a lot of cool Sherlock stuff in that basement.
Yeah, and he'd been posting sort of the updates about that man cave on his Instagram that I followed, so it was kind of fun to see it all like come together because he'd been kind of teasing about it for a few weeks. But yeah, that place is really neat. I would love a.
To those who are unfamiliar with the name Arwell, he is the production designer or set designer for Sherlock, and graciously offered to help out with organizing a virtual con when he heard how disappointed we all were that HomesCon wasn't going to happen live this year.
You've certainly been busy this year with your latest podcast project that I got to
and that was born out of HomesCon because I got to do my talk as a pre-recorded video podcast for the con, so that gave me an idea that I had like lots of topics that I could have elaborated on, so that gave birth to this video podcast series.
Can I say the title? Because it's just fun.
Go ahead.
What the frick?
Yeah.
I think I'll leave it to you. You say it much better. HomesCon was the birth of my bi-weekly fic chats as well. That's where that idea came from, was that people just wanted another space to be able to talk about things that we love and things that we're passionate about. And it's just kind of nice to have a social outlet for people that have been stuck inside, stuck in isolation for months and months and months. And I mean, having a fandom space like Twitter or Tumblr to talk to people is good and fine. Neither of those allow for a whole lot of conversation, though, unless you use like the direct message feature in Twitter. But then it can get a little overwhelming, group chats between various time zones and whatnot. So having one centralized place where people can just join in as much or as little as they want. There's been a lot of really good feedback. People have really enjoyed it and are looking forward to it every time. So yeah, I've enjoyed it, and I like having a list that we produce each time then of some new fic recs. I like hearing what my fellow fans are reading and writing. A lot of times, that's a really good place for people to self-promote.
True.
Usually our fic chats go through kind of when I can kind of wrangle the conversation back, which I'm usually the ringleader of the off topics. But
it's like Zoom meetings lend themselves much better than written content does to like off-topic tangential fun nonsense.
Oh yeah, that's the best part. It's just they're a lot of fun, and I've made some really good friends through this that I feel like I got to know much more quickly because we were kind of face-to-face than I would have just through, interactions on Twitter or Tumblr or whatever. So it was kind of, and it's always fun to get to see people's faces for the first time. There's just sort of that special little magic of seeing your internet friends, seeing what they look like and putting their face to their name finally.
And like comparing if your image of them fits what they actually look like.
Yeah, and if you've heard their voice too, sometimes that's how it progresses. You only read their words, and then you sometimes get to hear their voice, and then sometimes you finally get to see what they look like, and it's so fun. But yeah, I kind of sort of try to guide the conversations to at least briefly talk about, what are you reading right now? We usually talk about that in the fic chats. What are you reading? What have you read lately that you've loved? Doesn't have to be a new fic. A lot of times we've talked about things like, what are your all-time favorite fics? What's your favorite fic about this topic, or your favorite tropes or whatever? And then we almost always end up talking about what are you writing right now? And so then then we all kind of get to share our projects that we're really excited about, that we're either in the process of writing, or our new plot bunnies that have just showed up while we were, innocently trying to take a shower or whatever. watching a television show, things like that. So
I know that there are several reading groups that have like regular Discord or Zoom meetings, and people are very welcome to join them. So, speaking of writing, what have you got on the stove at the moment?
2 big ones kind of in the works right now. Well, I have more than 2. I have 2 that I think I will be working on next. One of them is sort of a dystopian nightmare of a fic. That's my next big project. I think that's the one I had set as a goal for myself to finish a rough draft by January, but I'll bump that goal a little bit. Give it a few months. That one's simmering.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's kind of a whopper of a case fic with a lot of dystopian London that I have to invent.
No, but that's the fun part.
Oh, I don't agree. that part, that's the part that stresses me out quite a lot, actually. Because I can picture in my head what I want it to look like. It's translating that to written words that I have a hard time with sometimes. Basically, I just get in my own way. I know what it should look like, so I know how to write it. I just second guess myself. So that one's on the back burner for right now. And then I have sort of a logistic nightmare of a fic that will be very, very fun to write if I can pull it off. And this is one that I started drafting years ago. And I did it, I think I originally started it as not even as a fic. I think I started it originally as just a writer's exercise. And then I had sort of a galaxy brain moment last year that I luckily saved my thoughts on. That it's going to be kind of a complicated, timey-wimey time travel sort of fic instead. So that one will be cool if I can get it to work. I don't want to jinx it too much and give too much of it away.
I know the feeling.
It's sort of a logistic nightmare that I do have faith that I can make work. I just have to write the thing, you know? And that's the hardest part sometimes.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a similar experience to what I have with the Monument of Memory. I mean, I'm very proud of that fic, but writing it and rearranging all the stuff and getting the structure right was a nightmare.
So I reread it a month or 2 ago and got so excited, and I was like, wow, sometimes I impress myself. But then I started writing out like just an outline and gave myself a headache. I was like, what are you getting yourself into? And then I sort of just threw it and was like, I can't deal with that right now.
You were like, Elsie, why?
Elsie, why? Why are you doing this to yourself? It started as a writer's exercise. What are you doing?
Elsie, no.
Yeah. You know, eventually someone might get to read it. I just write the thing. Just write the thing, isn't that?
Yeah, that's like being a fic author is easy. Like, you just gotta write the shit.
Yeah.
That's
easy.
all you gotta do, honest.
And I really want to read this, so I guess I need to write it first. Just write the thing, Elsie. That's. How about you? You got any big projects we can look forward to in 2021?
I don't know how big they are, but the Doctor Boys refuse to leave me alone just yet, which I know will delight you to no end.
Never. You're never allowed to stop writing.
I have actually written the last part of the series, but the thing is that I can always sort of bump it forward if I get more ideas.
That means nothing to me. I've read that. It's wonderful. No one else is allowed to read it, though, because then that means that it's over. That's the saying.
I will read it out loud at your funeral or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's about when you're allowed to stop writing them.
Yeah. And you're... Are you allowed to die first? We haven't established that.
I have to, so you can keep my skull like the crazy witch that you are.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got an AU story called Messages from Deep Waters, which I've been sort of dangling in front of the fandom for a while now. And I basically know what I want to do with it. It's nearly fully drafted, but it's quite an ambitious project style-wise. So I really want to get it right before I show it to anyone. Next up, we've got some lovely Christmas story recommendations for you all. Elsie, would you like to start?
I'm terrible at picking favorites, but here are some Christmas fics that I have enjoyed in no particular order. The All Is Bright fic collection by Finna Moore, I believe it was an Advent collection. Ghost Stories by Swissmiss, and Home for Christmas by Silent Aura. Those are a few of my favorite things.
I have picked 4 fics to recommend to you this year. I think they represent quite a nice variety of different styles and different genres. The first one is Silent Night by Corsair. It makes it easier to understand what's going on if you've read Corsair's epic historical AU Enigma, which I highly recommend, but I think this could also work as a standalone. John has been away to war for some time, and Sherlock has been waiting for him in London, and this is their Christmas Eve reunion. Next we've got Darcy Lindbergh's A Good Old-Fashioned Happy Ending from 2015. I think this has pretty much become a Sherlock Christmas fic classic. It has all the perfect balance of insecurity and angst and reminiscing about past difficulties and Sherlock's baggage and John's baggage and the hope of a better future together. It's very romantic and well characterized. My third recommendation is called It's Cold Outside by Salambo06. And it is the most delicious use of the... well, not snowed in, but like the heating breaks down. So they have to sort of huddle together and there's sort of only one bed because, well, they have to huddle together. And of course, there's also going to be one of my favorites, which is Accidental Awkward Erections. And finally, I want to head into the territory of magical realism, or possibly religious AU, depending on how you look at it. The fic is called You Don't Need Wings to Fly, and it's by Lake Willas. It's from 2017. And it's a Sherlock retelling of It's a Wonderful Life. John, an angel, is sent from heaven to help a desperate Sherlock Holmes by showing him what life would have been like if he had never existed. So, I think it's time for the final part of this podcast. We really didn't want this to be just about us. So
we're not that.
I asked a bunch of people, fellow fans, what they would write in a postcard if they could send one to the entire Sherlock fandom. So this is what they sent us. So we'll take turns reading these out loud.
First one is from Corsair, and they said, to the fandom at large, thank you for writing and creating art and meta, and above all, distraction, and for keeping me sane and functioning by doing so. Sorry. Well, I said that all in one breath that really should have been a cough instead.
Yeah. Oxygen is fun, and breathing is not boring.
No, it's certainly not.
Next one is from Wendy Marlowe. Be the John you want to see in the world. We all need a John in our lives after this year.
Hear, hear. And the next one is from Sandrina. We have all had a terrible year. It was hard for all of us in so many ways we could have never imagined before. All you Sherlock friends on Twitter made the loneliness bearable. You made me feel loved and understood. You provided an outlet, a place to talk about other things. All you fanfic writers, through your stories, brought a respite from the dramas going on around me. And I am so overjoyed to have met many of you at our virtual HomesCon this year. Love you all. Stay safe.
Next, we've got a postcard from 88th Parallel. Happy holidays and the happiest new year to a fandom that has truly changed my life. I'm grateful for every member of our community, for the fun and the angst, for the shit posts on the Blue Hell site and the shenanigans on Twitter, for every piece of fanfic, fan art and podfic, for every like or comment or conversation. I have made some of the dearest friends in my life in this beautiful and insane fandom, and I am eternally grateful to our two beloved British idiots who brought us all together. Now, if they could just bring themselves together, that would make for a great new year indeed.
Next up, I would say thank you for HomesCon. Thank you to everyone who helped to build it in some way and who took part in even the smallest of ways. Thank you for having faith in us to pull it off. It was such a highlight in this terrible year, and we couldn't have done it without you all. That is from Kat, who was one of the HomesCon organizers.
Next up, Podfix. Thank you for keeping me sane. Here's to the next year taking a better turn.
Yes. Penpot, also known as Beautifulfiction. I would say thank you to all of fandom, creators, and beyond for banding together and making a hellish year bearable. With a little heart emoji. And
next we've got Engazed. Happy Christmas to Sherlock fans near and far. 2020 has been a tumultuous year for many of us, but Christmas is a time to remember that in dark times we can still find hope and light. This morning I listened to the carol O Little Town of Bethlehem. Though composed in the 1860s by American pastor Philip Brooks after a pilgrimage to Bethlehem, it wasn't until Christmas 1941, in the dark of the Second World War, that Winston Churchill heard it for the first time. The lyrics which go as follows: Yet in thy dark streets shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. These words resonated with the Prime Minister, tasked with leading his country through wartime, and was a reminder that no matter how dark things get, we can feel hope again if we only remember to look for the light. Some 80 years later, that holds true today, and it is the very essence of the Christmas spirit that brings me joy in our own dark times. Happy Christmas to all. It was my luck that I'm the non-native speaker and I get the ancient English.
You did well. That's right.
Thank you. Your turn.
I was impressed that you managed not to burst into song reading those lyrics. I was definitely singing it in my head. Dear fandom, this has been a hard year for everyone. I miss seeing you all at cons or getting to meet up with you in another place to see a play or hang out. I'm very thankful for all of your fic, your art, and your friendships, and I can't wait until we can all meet again. Happy holidays, Sandy, also known as Yorkie Pug.
Up next is Inevitably John Locked. When asked what she would put on a Christmas card, she said that maybe a play on Sherlock's It's Christmas or Mycroft's Bemoaning of Christmas. Or Meretricious and a Happy New Year. But personally, she would say something along the lines of bed sharing under the mistletoe, may your tropes be plentiful and bright. Your turn.
I would accept a Christmas card with all of that on it. Another well-kept secret says, this time of year can be rough on its own, but this year is especially rough. So be gentle with yourself, more so than usual. The holiday magic may seem like it's a bit thin on the ground, but look to the helpers, as Mr. Rogers said, and take heart in all the good in the world. Search for happy things and keep them in your pocket, because you all deserve it.
And finally, we have a Christmas card from @Lim Merrick. The Christmas card I would send would have to be magic, and if it was, it would have everyone's OTP on the front in charming holiday jumpers, wishing them a happy new year. This interior would be luscious artwork of their OTP naked butt for a strategically placed mistletoe. Now kiss!
Oh, that's a perfect one to end on.
Yeah.
No kiss.
And with these post-Christmas, Christmas, whatever cards, we wish you all a better new year than 2020 was.
Hell yeah, I hope so.
Yep.
It has to be, right? Has to be better.